Recognized for 5 minutes, Mr. Raskin.
Madam Chair, thank you. You know, Congress passed the Orphan Drug Act in 1983 to promote the development of treatments for rare diseases, which were defined as conditions that affect 200,000 people or fewer than that. And Congress understood that certain diseases could affect a population so small in the country that Big Pharma would not see a financial incentive to invest in the research for developing therapies and cures for them. The Orphan Drug Act intended to provide an incentive for companies to get into this research, most importantly by granting 7 additional years of market exclusivity for drugs that have received what's known as the orphan designation. Now, Dr. Kesselheim, is Humira the type of drug that Congress was envisioning when it passed the Orphan Drug Act?
No, Humira is a blockbuster product that makes billions, tens of billions of dollars a year and is extremely profitable. The Orphan Drug Act was initially designed to try to provide an incentive for companies to take up unprofitable products for extremely small patient populations.
In fact, it's the best-selling drug in the world. Well, Mr. Gonzalez, Humira is approved to treat a painful skin condition called hidradenitis, I think it is, suppurativa, or HS for short. Your company has obtained an orphan drug designation to use Humira as a treatment for HS, right?
That is correct.
And would you have researched Humira as a treatment for HS if it were not for the Orphan Drug Act?
Certainly the orphan designation, it qualified for it because it was less than 200,000 patients. And normally there is a faster regulatory path.
Let me just short circuit to get to the right answer here. According to an internal memo from your company from October 2008 obtained by the committee, you determined that the HS patient market would be profitable even without Orphan Drug Act incentives. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
Yeah. So despite internal evaluations that expanding into the HS market would already prove profitable, corporate executives still pursued the additional market exclusivity through the orphan drug designation. Mr. Gonzalez, your company applied for and received 2 separate orphan drug approvals for HS, one for moderate to severe HS and another specifically for patients 12 years and older. Did you apply for both of these orphan approvals at the same time?
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, as I understand it, no, you didn't. The first of these applications was approved in September 2015. The second approved in October of 2018. Dr. Kesselheim, why might AbbVie have delayed seeking the approval to treat HS in pediatric patients?
Well, this seems like a common practice in the pharmaceutical industry called salami slicing, in which companies try to slice up indications into small, discrete segments to try to get as many different of these additional exclusivity protections as possible.
So they enjoyed a 10-year period of exclusivity, and by spacing them out in this way, they got 3 years longer than the 7 years intended under the Act. Due to the 3-year delay, pediatric patients experiencing this painful skin condition were also possibly denied access to treatment due to insurance companies being less likely to reimburse the drug without formal approval. So the company claims a commitment to bringing the best science and therapies to patients, but here we have a clear case in which they were actively choosing to delay patients' access to treatments and to block competitors simply for the sake of increasing their profits. Congress must act immediately to put a stop to these anti-competitive behaviors, including abuses of the Orphan Drug Act. Do you agree with that, Mr. Kesselheim?
I do.
Is this a question of 1 or 2 bad apple companies, or are these structural problems that we're seeing throughout the entire sector?
As I said, I think that the behavior and tactics and strategies that you're seeing in the Humira and Imbruvica cases and around the Orphan Drug Act, but also around price increases and others, those are common practices. And I think we've also heard about them with respect to the Orphan Drug Act and abuses of the Orphan Drug Act and obtaining the Orphan Drug Act protections for drugs that don't deserve it. Even one of the treatments for the pandemic, transiently got Orphan Drug Act protection at the beginning of the pandemic situation last year. So, I think that we see this all across the industry, and I do think that it is time to reconsider the, trying to make the Orphan Drug Act apply to the drugs that it was originally intended to.
Well, thank you very much. We need structural change here, and I yield back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Gibbs,